All right, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us. Really excited about this. We have experts here. Amy Nakos, who is a realtor from York Castle Real Estate in Summit County. So she's going to be talking to us all about buying and selling property in Summit County. Allow me to introduce myself in case you don't know me. I'm Carrie Reynolds. I'm a pediatric gastroenterologist. That's my longtime training and and job, but more recently in the last 4 years, I got my real estate license and I've been working with York Castle Real Estate and I'm working as an active realtor and been having a lot of fun doing that. And basically my goal is to really educate all physicians about real estate because we are really knowledgeable about medicine, but we sometimes fall a little short on some things like financial topics, and buying and selling homes falls right into that category. And basically that's my goal, is to help you guys understand buying and selling property better, whether that be in Summit County or here in Denver, or even if you're moving into another community, if you're moving out of state, going to a new hospital, getting a new job and don't know anybody, I can also help you find a realtor in all of those places. So I'm looking forward to helping you with all of your real estate needs, whether it be here or further out. So yeah, so if you have any questions about real estate, I'm here to help you. And Amy is our expert tonight to talk about property in Summit County. So of course that includes Breckenridge, Keystone, all those awesome places to ski that are so close to us. So I'm gonna pass the mic to Amy.
All right, everyone. Well, I'm super happy to be here tonight. Carrie, thank you for inviting me.
Yeah.
And my name is Amy Nakos, and I have been a real estate professional for 20 years. Prior to that, I was a commercial litigation attorney in Chicago. I still hold an active law license. So I don't know why, but I still have an active law license. So I keep that active. I've lived in Summit County for almost 20 years. So most of my career in real estate has been here. I live in Frisco, Colorado, and I work in the markets of Breckenridge, Frisco, Dillon, Keystone, Silverthorne, and Copper Mountain. So tonight, Carrie invited me here to talk about mountain properties, and I have done I've done in-person trainings in Denver, and I put together a agenda because these are always the things that come up. So I'm going to kind of talk through it in the way that I normally talk through it. But if you have questions as this is coming up, put them in the chat, and Charlene and Carrie are going to field those questions and then interrupt me when it seems appropriate, or interrupt me whenever. Okay. So what I'm going to start with is Summit County is a highly, highly desirable place to own property. And we all know why, right? We are a resort market. We have 4 world-class ski resorts, a base in Copper, Breck, and Keystone. We have 30,000 full-time residents. We have 35,000 residential properties. That's it. 35,000 residential properties, 30,000 full-time residents, and 5 million ski visitors a year. So we are truly a rural community that is urban because of tourism. So what that means is we have great amenities. I mean, we have a Whole Foods, we have a natural grocers, we have breweries, we have amazing spas and things like that, and ski resorts. And that's because we have the tourism base to support that, because you can imagine having 30,000 full-time residents in a town would not support the type of businesses that we have. So in a way that's really amazing, and in a way it creates some tensions and some unique things that happen in the market. So I'll touch on those as we continue to go through. What I want to show you first is, I think Charlene in the Zoom link has included some links to documents. So I have provided you with a lot of information, and I'm only going to cover the highlights. If this is something that's really interesting to you and you want more information, then you can reach out to me or go to Carrie and reach out to me, and then we can talk through more specifics. But for tonight, we're going to be more of a high level conversation on just statistics in the market. Also, if you have interest in the Vail market, for instance, or Winter Park, I don't work in those markets, but Carrie and I can help connect you to other people who work in those markets. But for purposes of tonight, I'm speaking just on Summit County. All right, now I'm going to get started. I'm going to share my screen, and we practiced this, so I think we should really be able to do this. So what I want to show you first.
Good, we can see it. Looks good.
Okay, this is our Mountain Trends packet. This has been included in your in the link. And the Mountain Trends packet is something our company, Your Castle Real Estate, does twice a year for Mountain Trends. So this takes us through all of 2022. And a few things I like to show people on this is here we are comparing Durango to Vail to Summit to Winter Park. In the last, really since COVID, the Summit County market has absolutely exploded. I'm going to show you the price increases that we've had. But what's important on this page is you can see this is an average condo price. So this is just straight up condos, probably a 2-bedroom average price. We're up to almost $1 million in Summit County. $967,000 is our average price for all of our markets for an average condo. Our price change in the last year has been anywhere from, let's say, 13 to 28%. And our days on the market, so how long our inventory is lasting, we're at 2.4 months. Up until the end of 2022, this was about 0.3 or 0.4. So market has started to slow a bit, but this is still really low days on the market. Okay, so that's what we're dealing with in our market. You can also see Winter Park has a little bit longer days on the market, but for the most part, most of these mountain markets are just a few months. In the real estate world, we say that if a market has 6 months of inventory, that's a balanced market, right? Buyers and sellers are on the same plane. So we haven't seen a balanced market in a long time. Another thing I want to show you, just to give you some background, if this scrolls up. Oh, hold on. I got to reopen it. It's a little glitchy. Is just appreciation. So we're going to talk a little bit about what do the numbers look like? If you want to buy a property in the mountains, how much is it going to cost you? How much money can you make? What do the numbers really look like? And I'll give you a tickler here, and that is that in the mountain markets, you don't make immediate cash flow. Instead, you're using it for your enjoyment. You're offsetting some of your costs with rental income, but you're banking on the appreciation on the back end. So this chart shows the different markets, different mountain markets, along with comparing their average appreciation since 1992 or 1990, 1995. That's kind of as far back as we can go on these. But if you compare Denver Metro to Summit County from 92 to current, Denver has seen an average annual appreciation of 6.5, where Summit has seen 8.42. So we'll talk more about appreciation in a bit. This chart shows the different appreciation that we've seen over the years. Again, 92 to current, it sort of overlays the last chart on top of each other. And you can see Summit County, which is green, has been sort of the leader of the pack. Why? And many of you maybe already know this, but I'll give you some insights into why Summit County is the leader in the pack. First of all, as I mentioned before, we're an incredibly desirable place to own property, to vacation, to spend time for 1 hour without traffic from a major metropolitan area. I think Denver Metro, Carrie, I don't know if you know, but Front Range is 7 million people right now, ish. I think that's about right. So we have a feeder market, if you will, of 7 million people, and we have 35,000 properties total. That, additionally, in not just Denver Front Range people want to live up here. We have numerous clients from Texas, Illinois, Florida, Nebraska, Iowa, Kansas. People own second homes from all over the country here. We don't have a lot of international buyers. Most of those buyers go to Vail, but we do have multi-state owners. So the big spike that you can see, I'm going to put my cursor here, in 2020. So you can see we're moving along and things are appreciating here, 2019, and then COVID happened. And I call this the COVID refugee phenomenon. And really what happened with COVID in the real estate world, I thought we were kind of dead in the water. I was like, nobody's going anywhere. Everyone's going to stay put. Instead, people who could move, moved. They got out. They didn't like to be in their crowded high rises. They didn't want to be in the crowded cities. They didn't have to work in the office anymore. Where did all of these people go? They went to resorts, and we're a resort. We're a resort market. So that's why we saw this increase. You will see very similar trends in other resort markets across the nation. So think Florida beach areas. Think like San Diego Beach. Think places where there's space, there's outdoor recreation, and you're in a resort market that has, like I was mentioning before, it's not too dense, but it has all the amenities because of the tourism. So that's what happened in our market. I'm going to switch to another screen. I have to move.
Yeah, I was going to say also that trend is continuing with people still working from home. So physicians aren't always the ones, but there are some people doing telehealth. But in general, yeah, that trend is still continuing. People are still moving because they can, because they're working from home.
Yeah, and I also think it just mentally reset for people what's important, because, you know, everybody, you can kind of get on a hamster wheel, and many humans, Americans, you're just on this hamster wheel and you're doing your thing, and then you get jolted with this big change. And it made a lot of people rethink about what's important and how they want to live their life. And I hear that, I've heard that a lot. But I'm going to summarize everything in this chart. I think you guys can see this. Can you see my chart with the skier? Okay, so overall, from January 2020 to January of 2023. So I just said, let's take, so January 2020, we were already in COVID. Well, no, not really. No, that was in March of 2020. So we hadn't yet hit when people started to move. But for the last 3 years, from January 2020 to 2023, our properties have average appreciation 56%. Have gone up 56%. In the last year of January 22 to 23, for 1 year, it's gone up 9%. So you can see the appreciation has slowed, but still pretty substantial. What's happened in 2022 over 2021 is our number of transactions is down 37%, dollar volume down 25%. And we saw those numbers in February jump into the 40s. Why? Interest rates. So in May of 2022, so from January to May of 2022, I mean, it was still a frenzy. Things were selling really quickly. We would have a property on the market with multiple offers in an hour. I mean, it was so fast and furious. I've never experienced anything like it. I've never worked as quickly. I've never been so surprised at my clients' willingness to just give up everything to get a property. But we had a lot of money in the marketplace because of COVID money that had come in. There was a lot of liquidity. Number two, low interest rates. People felt wealthy. 3, people's primary homes were already appreciated. They were taking out HELOCs and pulling money from their primaries at a low interest rate. So it was this market where it was pretty frothy. May hit, interest rates went up, and I think it was May, and it was like everything stopped on a dime. You know, as if you put a stick in the spoke of your bike wheels, it stopped. And that's why the numbers are down, but really it was June to December where things really started to slow down, because there were still properties under contract and things were still moving. So anyway, that's what's happened in 2022. We are currently in early 23, end of 22 and early 23. We're seeing numbers of sales all the way back. We haven't seen this slow of a market since 2012. So 10, 11 years ago is where we're hitting the mark. And that was really slow because we were coming out of the recession during that time. However, prices haven't softened that much yet. We're seeing some softening here and there, maybe across the board, a 3 to 5%. And in some areas, we're maybe seeing a 10 to 15% softening. And that's where we have short-term rental restrictions, which is going to be my next topic. And then I'll talk about the cash flow, but I do want to bring up the short-term rental situation. So that's kind of the market overall. Any questions, Carrie? Is anything coming up in the chat?
Nothing specific. And it's interesting because those trends in Summit County match Denver as well. So because the interest rate started to go up while things were under contract. That's why things slowed down in May, because the interest rate started going up in March. So,
Okay.
Oh, here's a question. Do you predict prices to start dropping? That's a great one. What do you think?
Not as much as people would hope.
Yeah.
And I think, Carrie, I was talking about this with you before we even started this call. I think we're going to see some price softening. I think you're going to see some opportunities here and there, but I go back to supply and demand and the fact that we're a resort market that is desirable for people across the country. So there's a few factors. Okay. One is, I don't think we're going to see a ton of inventory this summer.
Yeah.
I think we're going to see some listings come up from people that have to sell. I'm going to be getting a listing in the next month and these people are moving. They're locals, they're moving. Okay. I just got a call from another seller tonight who's interested in selling, but I think that people who have low basis, 2.75% mortgages, and they're on a short-term rental license are going to sit on it. And I'm going to and the short-term rental license situation in our market is the game changer. It's the conversation. It is the thing that distinguishes where properties will keep their value and where there are going to be bargains. The bargains and where you're going to see the prices go down are going to be on properties that you cannot short-term rent. You are paying the entire cost of owning that property, or you're putting in a long-term renter and you're not using it. So that's what's happening. All right, I'm going to move to the short-term rental conversation. Now, if you follow me, you probably don't. Most of you probably don't know me, but this is on my website and my blog. This is my hot button. This is my topic. This is what I talk about. This is what I write about. So I could talk for 6 years, but I'm going to condense it into a short conversation. In Summit County, we have 6 different jurisdictions that govern short-term rentals. So we have 5 towns, 5 incorporated towns. So if you fall within the town limits of Frisco, Dillon, Silverthorne, Blue River, or Breckenridge, you are under the town's rules. If you fall outside of the town's boundaries, you are in what's called Summit County unincorporated, and that's the 6th jurisdiction. Every single jurisdiction has different rules, which makes it really fun. Breckenridge was the first to implement their rules, and they split the town into 4 different zones. 2 of the zones, which are called Resort and Zone 1, can still get short-term rental licenses. Zones 2 and 3, the wait list will be anywhere from, we predict 7 to 30 years before the very first short-term rental license will become available. So what happened with that decision, if we're looking at Breckenridge, is the town council with a decision, despite hundreds of emails, hours and hours of public testimony against this, felt like they needed to protect locals' housing. So they were no longer going to allow short-term rental licenses. So that decision, with the stroke of a pen, created a situation where I think over half, and I don't know the numbers in Breckenridge, but a large percentage of properties in the town of Breckenridge can no longer get a short-term rental license. They didn't take away anyone's short-term rental license. If you have one, you get to keep it. When you go to sell, it cannot be resold unless you're in the correct zone. So immediately, people coming in to buy in the areas where you cannot get a short-term rental license, those properties have started to see some softening. They're taking a lot longer to sell because people want the option. Even if they think they aren't going to short-term rent it, they want the option. So on my blog and on my website, I have all the different jurisdictions. And if this is something that's interesting, we can talk about them all. But I will mention also that the Summit County unincorporated, so everything else that doesn't fall into a town, their rules just got implemented February 15th. And they have the most properties in the county. So something like 9,000 properties will not be able to get a short-term rental license in Summit County unincorporated. So 9,000 out of 35,000, that's just Summit County unincorporated. Then add in the Breckenridge ones. We've probably got about a third to a little over a third of our properties right now in our county that you can't get a short-term rental license. So that's what's making the.
I got a question. So do you know what the definition of short-term rental is in Summit County?
30 days or less.
So you could rent it for 30 days to one person. Or seasonal, you could do seasonal rental or something like that.
But the minimum length would be 30 days. So okay. Side note, what's happening with that is there's some property management companies who are trying to capture that niche, right? To say, hey, we've got properties for 30, 60, 90 days. And that's new. That's a new thing that's happening. What we're seeing with the pricing on that is you would take whatever the monthly rent would be for maybe an annual lease. So let's say 2-bedroom, 2-bath in Keystone would rent annually for $3,200 a month. If you're doing it for a month, it might be like $3,700. You're not getting that much more. You're not, and that would rent, in high season for $10,000 with a short-term rental license. But Keystone's exempt. So real quick, the areas that are exempt where you can get a short-term rental license are Keystone, all of Keystone, all of Copper Mountain, and those 2 zones in Breckenridge. Also, the town of Dillon has not, if you're in the town of Dillon, they have not implemented short-term rental restrictions and they don't plan on it. Frisco's almost reached its cap. Silverthorne's in the works with it. So bottom line,
another question is, how about Wilderness? Sorry.
Wilderness is unincorporated Summit County, no short-term rental licenses. I predict it'll take about 7 years for the first one to become available.
Oh man. That's interesting. I was always curious about Wilderness. Okay.
So Wilderness, Dillon Valley, can't get a short-term rental license in Dillon Valley. Peak 7, Summit Cove. Those are the neighborhoods.
Wow.
Yeah. So I'm going to stop that conversation because I could go on forever unless there are more questions.
Yeah. Does anybody have any other questions about that? I was surprised about Wilderness because I feel like that was developed, in the 70s, 80s, 90s as resort property, but I guess.
Wasn't it developed for the Olympics? Wasn't there?
Well, maybe. I guess.
It was. And I don't know the full story on this, but I felt like there was supposed to be the Olympics here and maybe it didn't happen, but that a bunch of housing up there got developed for the Olympics. And it is very much not full-time housing. Nevertheless, that got globbed in. So anyway, I'm going to pull up I'm stopped sharing my screen, but I'm going to pull up trends.
Someone's asking while you're pulling that up, if you have a summary slide of the regions, so like a map or something. Has anybody made a map?
No, because it's so.
Like Dillon's.
Oh, there was a weird sound.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. She's asking, I think she's trying to clarify her question. Or like a summary. Oh, a summary slide, maybe not a map, but a slide of.
Yeah, and I'm driving like.
Oh, I think she's driving. She was picking up her daughter. But yeah, I think she means a summary of all those areas.
So we have a short-term rental cheat sheet, and then we have a guide for where you can find out if your property is in
Mhm.
the town or in Summit County, but there's not a map. And in fact, the realtors are really asking for a map because, for instance, a property in the MLS could be listed in Dillon, but it's in
Yeah.
Dillon Valley. It's not in the town of Dillon. It could be listed in Silverthorne, but that's not actually Silverthorne. It could be Wilderness. So you have to, it's a case by case, property by property analysis where, like, I've been doing this for 20 years and I know every property. So I'll say, oh, that one's in this town and this one's not. But people who are new or people who are looking at it, you know, that you go to Zillow and you find a property and you're like, oh, I wonder if I can rent this. We have a system. We have sort of a step-by-step system. I have a document for it that I can share with Carrie, but that's how you have to do it. It's one by one. If you don't know, it's not obvious. There's no map. So sorry. Hopefully we'll get there. Hopefully we'll get there, but we actually, as a realtor association, we have to work with the county or the jurisdictions for them to actually tag the properties in a way that we can then sort them in our MLS. But there's currently no way of tagging them. So it's the Wild West, my friends. It's the Wild West. Okay, now I'm going to get into, I'm going to talk about the money. So let me go here. And we should be able to, oh, hold on, I got to get my bar here is hiding my documents. So I've got to, there it is, right there. I'll let this load. Okay, this is a spreadsheet with a lot of numbers. Can everybody see this?
Yep, I can see it.
Okay.
There
All
are
right.
a lot of numbers though, to be fair.
There's just a lot of numbers, and I'm just going to walk you through why we do this and what the numbers mean. But the question I get all the time, so I probably get 5-6 people a week who want to buy a property in the mountains and cash flow it with short-term rental income. So since I've been doing this for 20 years, it's never ever been possible to buy a property with 20% down and cash flow it with short-term rental income. It's just, the numbers don't work. Why? There's just so much demand that if people could do that, everyone would do it. Hence the prices go up, and here we are. So what I try to do is what I used to tell people. This was what I've been telling people for the last few years. If you pay 100% cash for your property, buying it all with cash, you'll make 2 to 3% on your money. If you put down 50%, get a loan for 50, put down 50 cash, you're about break even. If you put down 20% or 25% and take out a loan for the rest, you will be subsidizing the property. And you would say, okay, well, how much do I have to subsidize the property? So that's what this screen shows. And so I'm going to use my cursor, and I hope you can see it. We just put this document together in the last 2 days. So the properties that you're going to see on here, we chose Keystone and Breckenridge. They can be short-term rented. So I'm not going to talk today about buying a property and putting a long-term renter in, because those numbers are worse than this. Okay. The long-term rental rates are much lower than the short-term rental rates. So if that's your idea to do, buy a property and put a long-term renter in, the returns will be less. Okay. So, and that's why everybody wants to short-term, because you get a higher amount. So what we did with this spreadsheet is we said, these are the 6 different properties. We've got 3 in Keystone, 3 in Breckenridge, and I'm just going to take you down to the line where you can see what your annual cash out of pocket is going to be just looking at it from how much am I making on it? This does not take into consideration any of the tax benefits or appreciation. Just out of the gate, what are my costs? So with this Flying Dutchman, this is a 1-bedroom, 1-bath. It's 665 square feet in Keystone. It's on a bus line. It's not in the Center Village or in River Run. We're assuming a purchase price of $611. This is the list price, putting 20% down. That's your down payment. You put down $122,000. I'm assuming a 6.5% interest rate. And then these numbers are calculated. This is your principal and interest. This is your taxes and your insurance. Add in your HOA. Your total cost per month is $38.51. So your out-of-pocket's $38.51. It's costing you $46,000 a year. You are getting $21,000 net in rental income, short-term rental income. Why does that seem low? Well, because you pay a third of your income to the property management company. Okay. So 21,000 is your net rental. So your cash subsidy for this property is 25,000 a year. So you're looking at about 2,000 a month to own it. What does this give you though? This gives you the opportunity to use it when it's not being short-term rented. And it also gives you the opportunity in the future to gain the appreciation. So let's go down a little bit further where you can see, let's say that you are in a 35% tax bracket. Your tax write-off for the interest expense is $12,408. So you can take that from this 25, giving you 13, right? And then we're saying, well, what if it appreciated only 4% in the next year? You've made $24,000 on the property. So in theory, your economic impact is making $11,000 a year on the property. But that seems pretty good, right? And if you go across, we're making 19, we're making 24, we're making 13, we're making 24, we're making 44, but you're not realizing the appreciation piece until the end when you sell. And that's also assuming the 4%. Also, not sure what your tax situation is. We're assuming that you can write off, that you're in the 35% tax bracket, and this is the amount, 12,000, that you can write off from the interest expense, which was 31,772. So this sheet assumes 80% loan, right? So we're looking at 25,000 out of pocket. And I'm just doing the first one for the example. So let's just move to the 50%. Let me see if my computer is going to cooperate here. All right, so we just put 50% down. We went from 2,000 a month to under 1,000 a month, still subsidizing the property, but now we're at under $1,000 a month. Your tax write-off is less because you've financed less. Appreciation the same. Total impact per year, 21,000 on the property, like a 3% on 611. So there's a number of different ways to look at that, this. But if you're coming as an investor, and what I have a lot of investors want is they want to come in and put 20% down and cash flow their property. And that's just impossible to do in this market. The prices are too high. The interest rates, with the interest rates and the short-term rental income and even long-term rental income won't cover that. But you do have the opportunity to have the tax write-off combined with the appreciation. And so that's the benefits, along with being able to get to use mountain property. So what I was saying is the investors who want to come in and just get like that they're talking about cap rates. People are like, what sort of cap rates do you get? I'm like, they're negative. Like negative cap rates. But this is the piece of real estate that your family will love.
Yeah, you get to ski. How does that figure into your cap rate?
You get to ski. You don't have to sit on the interstate on I-70. I mean, I don't know if anybody's been stuck on I-70 this last weekend, but apparently it was 5 hours to get home on Saturday. Yeah. So that's sort of how the money shakes out. These spreadsheets have been shared with you. I also have a spreadsheet called an APOD, APOD, and it assumes a 10-year hold. And so I don't know if I've shared that with you, Carrie, but we can share that, and people, you can fill that in on your own and, you know, run the numbers on your own.
Right. I think that's the spreadsheet that has a couple pages and there's a lot of different things you can put in there. Is that your investment spreadsheet?
Yeah, 4 or 5 pages.
Mhm.
With instructions on where to put things. But what makes that nice is you can always run the numbers right away and say, well, I'm going to be $2,000 a month out of pocket. But when you're looking at the APOD, you can say, well, rents will increase every year. And
Mhm.
I'm paying down my mortgage every year, and it shows you 10 years and gives you the appreciation. So then on the back end, you can see what your internal rate of return is. And, you know, anyway, so that's a tool we use also. But I guess I can't stress enough that the buyers we have up here, the buyers who are pulling the trigger are okay subsidizing the property
Mhm.
to have the use of it, to be able to have the use of it, and for the sale on the back end.
Right. Can you go back to the 20% down?
So this
The
is
80,
yeah.
80 loan?
Mhm.
Just, I think this is probably the most common scenario of most people. So in the end, so just to summarize here, if someone wanted a 3-bedroom, 3-bath in Keystone, I like the idea of that a lot, actually. Oh boy, that's a lot down. Okay.
Yes. 319 down.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
frankly, 20% down is your minimum on a second home.
Yes, for sure. For sure.
I mean, you can do a 10% down, but then you're going to be paying PMI on that.
Mhm.
And that's really that's gonna throw your numbers all over the world. But
But
yeah,
then scroll down a little bit and then we can see the numbers on that. But you're still coming out ahead in the end, right? Is that what I'm seeing? What you have highlighted in yellow, your economic impact, that's a positive or is that a negative?
well, it is, but the cash subsidy required annually is 70,000.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
you're looking at 70,000, but
Yeah.
then your tax write-off is 30. And but
Mhm.
where you're making all this money is your appreciation. So you're assuming
Okay.
1% appreciation to get you 63,000 because you just paid, you know, what'd you pay for this? 1,595.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yes. I think my budget would be back more in Flying Dutchman myself. So I picked that one because it sounded nice, but gotta go with your budget.
yeah. Well, right. And everybody's tax situation is different and everybody's cash situation is different. But these give you just a good summary of where things are. Now, the numbers used to be better when, so the way that it balanced, right? When you had lower interest rates, obviously your mortgage payments were less, right? But we're also recapturing a bunch of money down here on the appreciation because prices have gone up 50%, right? So take off 25% of these. So it's all like Lon always calls it, Lon, who owns our company, like you squeeze a balloon, right? And the air is going to go from one side to the other. But
Do you feel like obviously these short-term rental restrictions have just come through and people are just getting the feel of them and just it hasn't settled yet. The dust hasn't settled. So do you feel like since there is going to be quite a limit on how many properties are available to short-term rent, that people will identify the value of that and then the value will go up of these properties? I mean, appreciate more, I should say, than a condo in a non-short-term rental area?
Yes, these will hold their value better because remember, we went up 57% or 53%, right? So we're going to see a slowing on the appreciation. I don't think it's going to go down for properties that can be short-term rented. And that's just a plain old scarcity conversation. I'm going to say this for the third time in this webinar, which is we have 35,000 total properties and 30,000 people who live here. So there's not big tracts of land. We don't have any land left. We're 75% national forest. So the developments that are happening are like 2, 3 units. Here we might have 20. Here we have 12. So we're not adding enough inventory to satiate the demand. But what's caused it to slow is interest rates, and people just also, when interest rates go up, people with money, because we are a market for second, third, fourth homeowners.
Yeah,
These
that's
are
true.
wealthy individuals. And it made a lot of sense to put your cash in real estate during COVID. Right now, there's good returns on bonds, the 10-year, right? So people are like, well, maybe I'll just take my cash and put it here for a little while rather than use my cash to go buy a piece of real estate since it's appreciated so much. So we have really savvy buyers. And so despite the fact that we have some inventory that's been sitting on the market and that we have scarcity, it's because we have very savvy buyers. I feel like I'm talking out both sides of my mouth, right? We have scarcity, things are going to sell, prices are going to remain even, but nothing is going to compare to our, 1 minute on the market. We're probably going to start to see 2 months, 3 months, 4 months on the market, even up to 6 months, which is a more balanced market, so that the people who are really ready to buy in the market price can find its equilibrium. That's what I think. So properties that can be short-term rented won't see much fluctuation. Properties that cannot be short-term rented are going to continue to see price softening. And we're seeing competition in those now too. I worked during the recession and I called it catching a dropping knife. Like how far do you have to go down to catch the price? And so when you have a number of properties in the same complex that are similar and they're all listed at the same time, the first one to go low to the right number wins. Well, they've set the new floor, right?
For everybody else.
So, yeah. So we're starting to see that in Wilderness. And some of those numbers are, off the height about 15 to 17% off.
But that's a good point. Wilderness is a great location. I shop there myself and there's a lot of good units there. That might be a place that maybe could be a consideration for someone who doesn't want to rent, that would just keep it as their family property. I mean, my husband and I are in that situation. We have a home that we bought in the mountains in Park County, but that just isn't appropriate to rent. So we don't rent it. And we enjoy it as our family home, and it's our second house. It's just an extension of us. So anyway, those prices might soften enough to make that seem a little bit better.
Absolutely. And let's shift gears on this a bit.
Yeah.
I focus so much on the short-term rental because that's been most of my clients, but you can rent any property anywhere for 30 days or more. You can buy any property anywhere and use it on your own and let your friends use it, let your clients use it. Maybe you have a business that you can let your employees use it. There's so many other uses that make that property valuable, right? If we have a pretty high demand for people who want to spend just the summers here.
Yeah.
We have a high demand for people who want to spend just the winters here. They're working at the mountain. So there are those opportunities. You won't see the same numbers that you will on the short-term rental income, but you can still have a place in the mountains. You can use it. You can enjoy it. You can capture the appreciation, share it with your friends and family. And it's only an hour from Denver.
Right. Yeah. Which I can advocate for is really great because that's what we do. So, yep. And we're close to Breck. So.
Yeah. So there's still a lot of people who are fine with that. And they're saying, that's okay. I don't want to rent it anyway. I don't want strangers in my house. I'm going to use it when I want. I'm going to let my friends use it. And that's, like you said, Carrie, that's where the opportunity will find itself, in the areas where you cannot get a short-term rental license for people who are, waiting for those prices to drop. I personally anticipate that we will see the best prices at the end of the summer. And the reason I say that is historically, September, October is when we saw, a little bit of dip in the prices because people were desperate to sell before the season began. So they'd either sell it or, take it off the market. But what I always say though, is if you wait till September, October, you get the scraps, you get what's left, but there could be there could be opportunity.
Some good stuff left over at the end of the year. Yeah. In the summer.
There could be. So that would be my advice on that. I'm going to move on to a new topic, unless there's more questions on the finances.
Nope, it doesn't. But actually, on that note of not waiting or waiting or just keeping an eye on the market, I want to encourage people to not trust Zillow or Redfin for Summit County properties, because they're not all listed. In fact, probably like 10% of properties that are on the market might make it to Zillow or Redfin. Is that right?
Well, that has recently changed.
Has it?
Because,
I should look.
Yeah, it has. Only recently though, because Zillow, somebody from Zillow got membership into our association.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well,
So I think,
so that's interesting. That's like a whole nother conversation for realtors to grumble about, but
we should do a webinar on Zillow someday, but not today. but I do, and I haven't been able to 100% verify this, but I do think that most of our properties are going to Zillow. Now it's up to each individual brokerage as to whether they want to syndicate their properties. And there are a few here in Summit County that simply refuse to syndicate their properties. Okay. So what I would say is if you're relying on Zillow or realtor.com, you're probably missing maybe 10% of our properties.
Okay. So it's better than it was. But yeah, there's a lot of course, there's a lot of, all of us are armchair shoppers. I'm armchair shopping all the time, everywhere. And, but if you are serious, obviously I would get on the MLS, talk to Amy, or I can send you to Amy so that she can put you on the property search so that you get and even if you're not thinking about buying right now, but maybe you want to catch something on the back end in the fall or whatever, good to start looking at it now and get on the list so that you can just see the properties and really know what's coming in, because then you won't miss anything.
Anyway. And it's not hard for us to do that. So
no.
A lot of people think, oh, they're gonna call me, they're gonna bother me. I don't want to bother them. Carrie and I, in our real estate profession, live in the MLS. I mean, we are in it all day. And if you want us to set up a search, we need a few clicks. We need your email. It's going to come to you, and you can shop on your own and reach out when something's interesting to you. I'm not going to bombard you.
Right.
I'm not. All right. I have 3 different topics left, and these are just mountain topics. I'm going to get through them relatively quick, but homeowners associations, financing, and property management companies. Let me start with homeowners associations. With a 2-bedroom condo costing $1 million and our average single family home price being 2.3, most people are going to find themselves in a community that has a homeowners association. Also, most of our properties, we have a ton of condos up here. It's a resort mountain property. So you might find yourself in a homeowners association. A lot of pushback I get from people are the cost of the fees, and they want to try to stay under a certain amount for HOA fees. So what I want to caution about that is you really want to, if you're in a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, you're probably looking at least $700 a month in HOA fees. Why? Most of these projects cover almost everything. You'll find that they cover your heat, they cover your internet, they cover your Wi-Fi, they cover exterior maintenance. You need a new roof, it's in your HOA dues. Exterior paint, in your HOA dues. People who own single family homes and feel like they're against HOA dues maybe don't consider how much money they're actually putting into their property to maintain it, where you're paying the HOA to do that for you. If you go to a project because it has low HOA dues, what I'm going to tell you is you might need to prepare yourself for a special assessment in the future, because homeowners associations that don't collect enough dues when they're hit with a surprise will come to you looking for thousands of dollars. So HOAs are also individual conversations where you look individually at the HOA. We have a lot of really interesting things happening in HOAs right now, especially in the wilderness area where insurance companies after the Marshall fire have pretty much stopped wanting to insure in Colorado. Has anybody else run into this with new properties? Like the fire insurance is really hard to get. And
You have
when
to
you
shop
get it,
around. You have to shop around and find the right insurance to make sure you're covered. Yeah.
absolutely. So we have these big projects where their insurance budget has, let's say, quadrupled. So there's special assessments coming in for units anywhere from $2,500 to $5,000 to $7,000 per year per unit to cover this insurance coverage. So that's something that's happening that, you know, you want to be aware of in an HOA. And again, individually, you look at it, you look at the capital reserve study, you look at the savings, you have to get yourself comfortable because you probably will be joining a homeowners association. Ultimately, I find them to be more beneficial than not because they do provide a lot of services. They keep the properties maintained. And since you aren't living there, you don't want to have to shovel and deal with snow removal, which is one of our largest expenses. Because I point this out to people, they don't really realize this. Unless you live here, you don't realize that the snow never melts. Never. It starts in October and it'll melt in May. So it doesn't go away. We move snow around all winter. It just stacks up and we move it around. And that's a big expense. So HOAs, financing. I'm going to talk quickly about financing. Any questions on HOAs or anything yet? Good. Okay.
I will say, actually, just to put in my aside, I have a single family home on a half-mile dirt road that I have to maintain with my own plow. So anyway, so yeah, I kind of wish I had an HOA, but I am my HOA, so it's expensive. I shopped for plow service and it was too expensive, so we're doing it ourselves. Anyway.
Yeah, so it can be done. It can be done. Carrie's doing it, but
I'm doing it. We're plowing tomorrow.
Financing is interesting in the mountains. A lot of times if you want to use your Denver lender, it often works. It sometimes does not. And so again, we're going to talk about individual property considerations. So we have in Summit County what's called condo-tels. Condo-tels would be like Beaver Run in Breckenridge, River Mountain Lodge, Mountain Thunder Lodge. All of our condo-tels are in Breckenridge. The new Kindred coming in Keystone will also be a condo-tel, but it has a front desk. And it just has different financing because back in the recession of 2008, Freddie and Fannie, who buys almost every single loan, decides that condo-tels are too risky. They're not going to buy the loans anymore. So if you are in a property like that, that is highly amenitized resort property, you're probably going to have to get a local bank to give you a portfolio loan. Note that. Another thing that's happening with financing, and this is going to be coming up May 1st, and it is for second homes only. Freddie and Fannie, who repurchases most loans. So if you have a mortgage broker and your broker doesn't have access to anybody who's doing portfolio loans, like a bank that holds the loans, so your broker is reselling the loans to Freddie and Fannie, you're going to be paying more, and you're going to be paying substantially more. One, because it's a second home. Two, they're also taking into consideration high value loans. So those are an extra fee. If the credit score gold standard used to be 740, it's now 780. So if you're between 740 and 780, there's an extra fee. And finally, the debt to income ratio, which has never had an additional fee on these loans, is a new fee. If your debt to income ratio is over 40%, you're going to be paying an additional fee. What does all that mean? That was like a whole bunch of words, right? What's happening and what we're seeing here in Summit County is people who are coming in looking to get quoted for second home loans are being quoted 8.5%. 8 to 8.5. If you're going to go get a primary loan down in Denver, you're probably looking at, I don't know, what are the rates? 6.5, 6.75. So anybody who's looking to get a second home loan, you need to find a portfolio lender. I can help with that. I've got portfolio money from my lenders at about the 6.5 number. If you're going out to a broker, you're probably paying 2 points more. Nobody wants to do that. That's financing. You need to know about condo hotels and portfolio loans and how that's looking with second homes. Finally, property management companies. We're talking about second homes here, right? You're not here. So if you come up every weekend, maybe you don't need anybody to help take care of your property. But if you're renting out your property short term, then you're probably using a property management company. If you're not, then you're going to be managing all of the Airbnb, VRBO inquiries. You'll be working with a cleaner to get the place cleaned. I've seen people do this. It saves you a ton of money. Some people have really great systems set up to do it. I'm not a great coach on how to do that. I would direct you to somebody who would teach an Airbnb class or a short-term rental class for that. But if you're not into that, if you're busy, we're talking to physicians. So, like you're with a patient, you're like, excuse me, I have to book this Airbnb. You can't do that, right? Like you're doing your job. So, property management companies take about, middle of the road is 30% of your gross rental income. So if you're making $100,000 a year in rental income, which is you could probably make $100,000 on a 3-bedroom ski in, ski out at Keystone. They're taking 30 grand of that, and you're going to be netting 70. What are they going to do? Well, they're going to handle all the bookings. They're going to handle the keys. They're going to get your clients in and out. They're going to clean. They're going to handle anything that's broke. Your hands off. You're just getting paid. We have a lot of property management companies up here. I recommend them based upon which property you own, because some specialize in certain areas and do certain things. So we have good property management companies that do work all over the county, and then smaller, more boutique ones. So that's something that if you are ready to make a mountain purchase, you're going to want to shop. You're going to want to shop that out. And that's kind of that's what I got. Anybody else have any questions?
See, we didn't have any more questions beyond that, but yeah, that's some good stuff. So what's your takeaway? What's your take home when someone comes and talks to you and picks up the phone and says, Amy, I desperately want to see mountains out my living room window. I want to be able to ski. I want to take my family there. We live in Denver, so we're not far out investors. What's your take home?
I start to ask questions about
what's your needs.
First I ask, have you talked to a lender? Have you been pre-approved? That's what we do, right? You want to say, okay, well, let's see how much we can afford and what they think their numbers might be.
Mm-hmm.
What the internet and Zillow and realtor.com has done for us as real estate professionals is it brings us educated clients. Mm. They've looked online. They've seen what things cost. So generally, that conversation is, okay, have you been pre-approved? How much, do you want to put down? And then one of the first things I ask is, do you plan on renting it out when you're not using it? Yes or no? And then I ask, what are your investment return expectations? And when people say, well, I'm hoping to break even, then we have a real conversation about, okay, this is what it's going to take to break even. This is how it's going to look. And then a lot of people kind of fall off, So that's my son letting my dog out.
Oh, very good. Important. Actually, I have another question. What about fractionals?
Oh yeah, fractionals. We're in the process of selling a fractional right now. So fractionals were really popular before the 2008 recession. So what a fractional is somebody took a property and they split it into 4 deeds and sold the 4 deeds separately. So you pay a fraction of the cost of the property, but you also only get 1 week per month use. Additionally, financing them is nearly impossible. Most people are pulling money out of their primary. So we're under contract right now to sell a 2-bedroom, 2-bath in River Run in Keystone for $250,000. And those units full price was $1 million. So it's about a quarter.
Yeah, I will say my aunt had fractionals in Wilderness back before the recession. But anyway, she really loved it. And I maybe this is a time that fractionals might come back, do you think?
I don't think people are going to divide the properties into fractionals, just mainly because of financing for it. But there's a company out there called Picasso. Picasso is a California-based company, and they've started to move into our market. And I think they do 5th shares or 6th shares. They're trying to do that, and I think they offer their own financing. What I tell people about fractionals, because a lot of my clients are the Denver family of 4 with kids in grade school. You know, and their kids just might be starting to ski and they want to spend more time up here and not be on I-70. I say, okay, the fractional could work for you, but you will get every 4 years, you get Christmas. Every 4 years, you get your spring break. Mm-hmm. So if you want use of it more often, then maybe the fractional doesn't work. I've had the best luck with fractionals with retired Denver people.
Yeah.
They use them all the time. They've got the whole week. They'll go for their whole week. Another thing that is necessary with fractionals is you need all 4 of your owners to be using the same property management company, or you won't get any rental income.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, because then you'll rent it through. Yeah. Okay. Oh yeah, I wasn't even thinking about that. Short-term rental through fractional.
Yeah, short-term renting fractionals is really, you have to treat it as a whole ownership, right? Because if it's a Saturday to Saturday cutoff or Saturday to Friday, and somebody wants to rent it Thursday to Saturday, and you have different property management companies, you lost the rent.
Oh my God. Yeah, no, that's drama. That's a lot of drama.
Well, you have the same property management company, and then they pay out on a pro rata day by day basis, whoever owned that share. So anyway, yeah. Quarter shares are, they're a great product. They let people get in the market, you know, for a much lower price. You just have to be okay with less use.
Yeah, well, that's my aunt and uncle, they liked it because they would only have time to go up once a month, and then they didn't feel bad that they were, I mean, of course they had the rest of the week because they had the whole week, but they would just use the weekends because they had kids in school and stuff. So yeah, that's interesting. So, okay, someone has a question. Let's see, on the fractional. Oh, someone's down for a fractional if anybody wants to talk. So, oh, wow. What can we do about that, Amy? Did we do that? Is that a thing?
I think there's still a fractional on the market in Keystone. I think it's a 3-bedroom fractional for 300 and something.
Oh,
I don't have it in front of me.
No, but we buy one property, 4 of us go in on it.
Oh, got it, and fractionalize it.
Fractional.
Okay, I wrote an article on this.
Okay.
An article on this years ago, and it's like, is it a good idea to buy a property with my friends? And I've seen it work and I've seen it not work, but I always recommend you get an attorney involved in the outset. Like I currently have a sale, or I currently have some people I sold a property to, and they're actually going to be suing each other because of this. They were best friends, and they're going to be in litigation because of this property they own together. I've also seen it work out, but what I recommend to everybody is you've got to get a lawyer involved at the outset, at the very beginning, because it's never the entry. It's always the exit.
You got to get it's like a prenup. You need a prenup for it.
You need a prenup.
Yeah. That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. You're commingling your money, which is, but no, I mean, but it is a thing. We never have enough time to use the mountain property that we own. So.
Yeah. Well, and you want to get a cleaning company. Think about you always want a cleaning company because, well, the Joneses didn't clean the toilets, and then the Smiths showed up and had to empty out the rotten food in the fridge. You know, it's just, you got to get rid of all of those potential problems by an agreement and by bringing in third parties to clean and manage it and things like that. And then I see it work. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, anyway, talk to me if anybody wants to do this, because hey, we can help you.
We haven't we have an attorney in Breckenridge who does this. Like, this
Oh,
is
okay.
one.
Not,
Yeah.
right. It's not impossible. It's a thing. Yeah. Someone was asking, how do you access a portfolio loan? So I think clarification about
yeah.
that.
Yeah. Portfolio loans are usually First Bank, Alpine Bank, Key Bank has portfolio loans. So tends to be local banks.
Right. So you're not going to go to Quicken and get a portfolio loan.
Oh, please don't.
Don't go to Quicken ever. Anyway, that's a whole other story. But, or a, right. So a bank that will be lending directly out of their own coffers, and it will always stay with that bank.
Yes.
That's what you mean.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
so,
also as opposed to a broker who is going to sell it under one name, and then you pay 1 month worth of that loan, and then it gets sold to Wells Fargo. That's happened to me, which is fine. But in this scenario, they won't do that without a lot of fees.
right. Generally, if your loan's getting sold, it's conforming. That's the word conforming. Means it falls under the Freddie Fannie rules that can be sold. And
Okay.
portfolio loans are not conforming.
Yeah, and I'll have to say too is that yeah, always talk to your local realtor, and in this case, if you're in Breckenridge or Summit, talk to Amy, because she'll know which lenders to talk to. You know, we always give you a list, so because we're not allowed to like work with one lender, that's against the law, but we know who can help you the best and give you people to call, and you should always shop around regardless. So but we can start pointing you in the right direction. That goes for Denver too. Same thing happens even in Denver. There's good lenders and there's not so great lenders, great brokers and not so great brokers. So anyway, and we've worked with a lot of them. So yeah.
True. Anything else?
All right. Yeah, no, that was some really great information. This is interesting because we did this talk, I think it was almost 2 years ago, and obviously it was in the middle of COVID. Everybody was in lockdown, and it was a different story back then. And real estate, this is what's so exciting about real estate and keeps everybody on their toes, is it's always changing. And it really can really make your head spin a little bit about how fast things can change. But just like they've changed kind of a little bit for the negative as far as interest rates, those interest rates at some point will come down, and refinancing will be part of the picture as well. And I mean, your numbers aren't figuring in refinancing, which they shouldn't yet, because that's not guaranteed. But that's the case for most of the purchases now. Is yeah, we have to kind of look at these high interest rates, and it hurts. The interest rate hurts, and this goes for your primary home as well. It hurts, but interest rates aren't as high as they have been in the past. They're only a little higher than they had been for a long time. My first home I bought at 4.5%. So, and I thought that was actually, I thought that was great. So, we just are just a little too close to that 2.5%, and that was such a blip in time. That was an anomaly. And that was just crazy. And that was just because of COVID. It's unfortunately COVID's really made everything just crazy.
Yep. And we got spoiled with that. I mean, go back to pre-COVID. Would anybody have ever thought you could get a 2.5 or a 2.75 interest rate? Heck no. But then it happened. And boy, now our heads think that should be the price. Right. It's just human nature. We're
yeah.
Human. It's human.
Right.
Good deal. Good deal.
Well, awesome.
Yeah, Carrie, thank you. I'll also offer, if people want to be on my newsletter, I do a monthly newsletter. It's pretty in depth. Yeah. So, I'm happy to put them on the list. And again, always happy to put people on an MLS search without bugging you. You can shop from the comfort of your home.
Yeah, it's good. It's a good idea to do that, so you won't miss anything, and you just keep an eye on everything. And yeah, so if anybody wants to get in touch with Amy, I am happy to connect you, and or if there's any other areas in the mountains or anywhere else for that matter that you need some connections for a good realtor in those areas, I can help you. And yeah, thank you so much, Amy. Thank you. You helped me shop 4 years ago. We had a great time going out and looking at properties. So I can I can attest Amy's an awesome realtor and fun to hang out with. So
Well, you got to have fun, or why else are we doing it?
right.
All right. Carrie, thank you. And thank you,
All
everyone.
right. Thanks, guys. Thanks everybody for joining us. Bye-bye.